So, welcome. Friday. Interesting. Rebound. Buy the dip. Bitcoin to 250K. I mean, come on. All right, listen. We've had a 3-day burn across the board. And some of the greatest traders in the world have said that when the market corrects 20%, buy. If it drops a little bit more, keep buying. You're either going to keep playing the game and understand expansion, contraction. And for those of you that know, would understand what that was about, just watch last night's live stream towards the end, where I give you the perfect analogy at helping you understand that when the markets expand and they contract, and I use the idea of being with the missus, expansion, contract, yeah, you can work it out yourself. Just go and watch that video. But the market on a Friday can usually do one of two things. It's either going to consolidate or it's going to make a run for profit. And that's something that is learned inside of the world of Forex. You see, with Forex, the concept of value is always forever changing, but they always end up sticking to the bigger picture when it comes to value. What we're going to do today is just break down some key levels on Bitcoin, a key level on the Nasdaq based on the monthly chart, because that's going to be deciding as to what we can expect today. Dip buyers are starting to come into the market, but we've still got this problem with AI. Everyone that has declared their earnings have smashed it, but the market has corrected from the back of that. Why? Because the spending that's being put into AI, it looks like these companies don't actually care about the dividends that investors are seeking. They care about dominance. That's what it's all about. Amazon have declared they're going to be increasing their expenditure. Google has declared it as well. Oracle was giving out bonds, high-grade corporate bonds, to raise capital because they want to spend more and more. We've also had the idea that NVIDIA's not going to be releasing any gaming chips for a little while because of memory shortages. Intel told us that already, that they see a memory shortage going into 2028. So if there is a limitation on the amount of hardware that is going to be required for this development of AI, then we can assume that AI is going to be pausing in terms of its advancement, because if it's going to be so expensive to run, the only real players are the Mag 7 that are going to be able to put the money up to service it. But then that is equally going to get pushed onto the consumer and the business, who are going to have to pay for that. And because AI is so demanding, you can appreciate that they're going to be marking up those costs, and that's going to be a different story. So let's break down the market today, ladies and gentlemen. It's been absolutely chaotic for Bitcoin. Everyone's asking Michael Saylor what the problem is. And you know what he said? He said Bitcoin would have to go to $8,000. Why does Michael know about my 8K projection? Do you think he was watching the lives? Maybe we knew. How did he know? Nah, he never knew. He knew. Let's check it all out, gang. Here we go. So, stocks rebound after tech rout as Bitcoin climbs. So we go over to Bitcoin's price, and you can see we got a little bit of a climb. I don't put the house down yet, but understand it's just a nice little retrace. But BlackRock is getting up to no good yet again. And this is our problem. Going over into the BlackRock ETF, only 2 hours ago, we've seen an influx being hit into Coinbase Prime. That's no good. And when Bitcoin rises on the back of Coinbase Prime deposits, it means that they're going to be actively selling the Bitcoin as it does go up. I mean, you can sell it when it drops, but yesterday they didn't really do too much. They did hit the book, but they've added it again. So now that Bitcoin's price has gone up, we can justify it. Why? Because if we go over to the actual behavior over here on the spot market, you can see that we're starting to see, let me just kill that. What is that? We're starting to see that the offers are coming into play, but they're not really surpassing major levels, like 63 million. That's not a peak level. We need to see bigger offers coming into play to suggest that people are stepping in and buying the Bitcoin, because these guys will be selling it, okay? Now, when we go over to Bitcoin's price action, we just had some news in, just by the way. It says Iran's foreign minister, negotiations will return to capitals for consultations. Talks will continue. So, of course, the US and Iranian discussions have actually stopped. And now, I mean, US and Iran hold crunch talks in Oman over nuclear program. If they're delaying it and moving it forward, yeah, you go, time and place of next US talks will be decided. That means they're not nipping it in the bud. So that means there is still room for discussions and declining. They're going back to the board and be like, look, this is what they said. We don't like that. Tell them. And that's going to have an impact on the marketplace overall. Just breaking it all down for you, we go into it, and it says down here, scroll down a little bit, you can see the following. We've had Amazon shares dropped after the company announced plans to spend $200 billion this year on data centers, chips, and other equipment, worrying investors that its colossal bet on artificial intelligence may not pay off in the long run. Let me explain something so that you understand the difference between value and consumerism and the prospect of profit in the future based on a company's practice. All right? This is for anyone that wants to understand why you should buy a stock and why you shouldn't. Okay? Let me bring you probably one of the most greatest flops, in my opinion, strategy. Anyways, so they declared their earnings per share yesterday, and that came in at a wonderful minus 1,242%. As a dividend investor, those are the sort of negative rewards that I want to obtain holding a stock. That's what I'm talking about. So you can go and throw your dick around and be like, yeah, but listen, you may hold your Google stock and your Meta stock. I got Microstrategy. Yeah. What's your dividends per share on that bad boy? Minus 41. Yeah, bro. Like, what are you going to do about that? You and your positive earnings per share. I'm not interested in positivity. I'm interested in triple-digit negative, the 4-digit negativity on my earnings per share. That is wild. All right, jokes aside to anyone that does hold any Microstrategy shares, but it's not a good story, even though its stock is up 8% in the pre-markets. You can appreciate dip buys are stepping in off the back of that, but it's not very good, okay? When we go into its earnings per share, you can appreciate at the bottom there, it's not looking great, okay? This company doesn't earn money as a company. It was a strategic analytics platform. But then, of course, with regards to what happened with this, here we go, the AI startup Anthropic that threatened to render large swaths of software services redundant, that is going to be hurting companies like MicroStrategy that do offer that service, okay? Now, something you've got to take into consideration. This is a company that doesn't do well with its earnings per share, and its reliance on Bitcoin price action is important, okay? When you invest in strategy, you invest in Bitcoin. It's just stocks and shares that represent Bitcoin's behavior. So if Bitcoin was to slump, these guys wouldn't do too well. And it is evident about that, okay? Now, let's go over and have a look at Amazon, okay? You take Amazon, you then say to yourself, okay, then, what does this company do? Consistently earning with their sales. They offer a service. There is consumption. They don't just offer the Amazon website. They offer Amazon Web Services, cloud services, data centers, you name it. This is what Amazon does. There is a demand for the service. When you're investing in a stock, you have to see if there is a demand for the service, because Amazon will only do one of two things. It's either going to stick with the service that it provides and then just, of course, make that improve it in certain ways, or get involved in other aspects off the back of the existing service that they provide, which means that they're opening doors for other consumers to come in and use their service, and businesses as well. That is always going to be feeding the earnings and the sales. As long as you can see earnings and sales coming into play, then whatever investment Amazon does, it is doing it for the future. It wants to be a bigger player. It's putting 200 billion. Google putting up 185 billion. Okay. So there is a race amongst the Mag 7 to effectively be the main player for AI, because what other company has done that already? Well, it's NVIDIA. Everyone goes to NVIDIA, and that's what everybody focuses on. That's why it's got $4.5 trillion market cap, because that's where the money is going, right? They've effectively cornered the market. Even China's trying to investigate NVIDIA for the grounds of monopoly in the game, and they can't allow NVIDIA to just be the one that wins all the time. That's why you're seeing all these investments coming into play amongst the Mag 7. Before, they had businesses with each other and investments within each other. Now they're trying to get involved in it in their own way so that they can take advantage of it and be the leader for it. That is only going to be increasing and developing their service and, of course, their earnings per share. Their earnings per share is projected in 2027 to 22%. You go over to NVIDIA, what's their earnings per share? They're coming up at 65% increase on their earnings per share to $7.73. Every time, every stock you hold for NVIDIA, you're earning $7.73. This is why you've got to ask the question why maybe Wall Street doesn't go fully immersed into cryptocurrency, because they don't have these metrics to back it on. Because historically, when you've got a service and there is a demand, it's going to equally lead to the liquidity coming in. Why? Because people are consuming it. Bitcoin has that, but it's based on an idea that we're in it for, for the man, because we don't like fiat anymore. But unfortunately, the same reason why BRICS isn't going to work is because all those dudes that are trying to go against the dollar are so heavily invested in the dollar because that's the system, right? And they've obviously been, they've seen what happens when you try and mess around with orange. You just look what happened to Venezuela. And he was calling out Donald Trump. And look what happened to my guy. I think it was a payoff anyway, but if you're sat on a very large reserve of oil and you got the Americas coming to your door and saying, listen, we're going to stage it as a kidnap, or we're just going to come in and infiltrate. We will give you X amount of proceeds every single month for you to allow us to do this. Will you proceed with that? Of course I will, man. Rolling up, being captured, rolling some Nike flip-flops and some tracksuit, and he's like the happiest kidnapped person on earth. Come on, man. Just go and do a little bit of prison time. We'll sort you out and your family is sorted. I'd do it. Wouldn't you do it? Wouldn't you do it? Because it's now not for the country anymore. It really isn't. War back then was for your country. Alexander the Great times. Okay, you were fighting for your country, for your wives and for your children, and even in the First World War and Second World War, you were fighting for your country. Yeah. Now it's economical imperialism. Who can do it the most? Who can get the most and do it better? All right. That's why they will never press any nuclear buttons, because you're screwing each other over. This is all about the mullah. You understand? That's why we will never have these blown out wars. No. Never. We just build bigger and better machines just to intimidate each other. Cold War kind of vibes. No one's going to push the button. No one will. Look at Russia, man. Sanction on your oil, sanction in your money system, sanction here. You're lucky we're not putting sanctions on the oxygen that you breathe, okay? And look at all the intelligence that Russia has with regards to nuclear. You can just press a button, see you later. But they won't. Because Russia is so tied up in UK, they ain't going to do it. They really won't. Anyways, enough of the yap. So, Bitcoin. Daily time frame, nice blue vector candle, okay? And it's effectively come back into the same consolidation area that we saw from the last all-time high. This is a healthy area for Bitcoin, okay? But just be very mindful, guys, that given that we've had such a sharp drop, usually leads to an aggressive reversal back up. But the narrative is still in play, okay? We still got the idea that the Fed is not really looking at cutting interest rates. And of course, with this new relationship between Druckenmiller and Walsh and what have you, not new, they've been around together for a while, there is going to be flexibility. Besson is a trader, courtesy of one of the Platinum members commenting on the website, giving me a bit of a story about the relationship between these two guys. There is flexibility with Walsh, but Walsh needs to make it known that it's about improving the strength of the dollar. That's what they need to do. You need the dollar to be at least worthy of something, okay? Now, the reason why we need the dollar to be worthy of something is because then once we hit an extreme on the dollar, then the idea of value gets engaged. Right now, we've hit an extreme on the dollar, which means value is being engaged, which means that how many euros can I get for my dollars? Or should I say, how many dollars can I get for my euros? That's the level of extremity that we are in. So when that level of extremity comes into play, we then say, okay, then everyone is favoring the dollar. That's why they're not going into Bitcoin. Well, they haven't been going into Bitcoin because what they were doing was exchanging their Bitcoin into dollars at the peak, and dollar took a smack to the downside, progression of interest rates. Now we're changing that story. We're not so much in an easing cycle. We're on a pause. Yield on the dollar is going to be going up. No consistency with data. Don't have no non-farm payrolls. We don't know where anything is. Like, let's have a look. Any non-farm payrolls? Nope. Nothing at all. The calendar, where's the calendar at? What we got today? Today we have preliminary consumer sentiment and inflation expectations. What's that going to tell us? If consumer sentiment is still positive, what does that mean? Well, that effectively means is whether or not consumers are going to be spending money. And given that we don't have the full data story on employment, it looks like based on the employment data that not many people are in work. So that means less people are going to be spending. But if the manufacturing sector is expanding and the PPI went up in the last reading to 0.7% because they're increasing the cost of their goods and services, that only means what? That means people are putting money to work. End of. So that means what? Inflation's going to go up. That means what? Keep rates higher. That means what? Dollar goes up until they find that sweet spot. That's all you're doing. If you foresaw and purchased Bitcoin, not based on X, not based on whales, not based on anything, but had the understanding of the perception of value, then you'll come to understand how it moves and why it moves aggressively. So when you look at this candlestick breakage to the downside, what do you think these red vector candles imply? Yes, it means that they're buying it, but let's forget the mechanics of what's going on here. But when price drops down aggressively, it's the concept of value getting ready to be engaged. How low can it go? All right. How many dollars can I buy Bitcoin for? Okay. Or what amount of dollars am I going to get? And how much Bitcoin will I get in return for it? Do I have that much purchasing power? No. When your dollar gets stronger, that's when you put it to work. Right now, what they're doing is they're setting yields. They're locking in yields. So if we go over to the yields market itself, you can see that the 2-year is up 0.4%, 5-year is up 0.3%, and the 10-year 0.29%, and 30-year is up 0.3% and 0.27%. The 10-year bond market is currently going sideways. And we go over to gold to put it into perspective. You can see gold is moving back up again, and it's up 2.91%. These are quite volatile times, okay? And I did say it's coming back to that, so don't worry. Yeah, I've called that all day. They're coming back into that red vector candle. But it is subject to macros, okay? Remember, investors have to find a reason to believe that the rates are going to get cut. Rates get cut, oh, gold goes up. If geopolitical tensions rise, gold goes up, okay? That's what you got to be looking out for. If the dollar goes up, gold goes down, okay? That's the idea of value. Look at USDT in cryptocurrency right now. What's the yield saying? That's brilliant. Problem is, it's leaving me a clue as to what it's likely to do later on. So engaging in dollars. The idea now, my dollar is worth something, so I'm going to now pick up some Bitcoin at these lows. Now, even if they start picking up Bitcoin from here and then USDT continues to go up, all right, you've got to consider the fact that who's buying and who's selling. Look at these guys over here. Bitcoin's price has pulled back ever so slightly just right now, okay? And you've got some guys that are going on bid at 53 million, okay, 73 million. Okay, then you got another one that's 72, 76. So you got a lot of guys bidding Bitcoin as it's going down. They only need Bitcoin to go back up a little bit more, and they're making themselves some money. If you're buying 70, 30, 40 million dollars worth of Bitcoin, you don't really need that much of a movement in Bitcoin's price to make a return. That's why you're seeing so many transactions happening. All right, they bid, they consolidate, and then they offer out, and then price starts to rise, and they bid halfway through it because they anticipate there is momentum on the selling and the offers. And then it continues to rise up and they offer out even more. Okay? To understand this, I've got a masterclass session on this concept of the CoinAnk helping you understand this. Just check out the website and it'll guide you through to that. My brother, can you touch up on stablecoin dominance? I'm just doing that right now, my bro. I'm doing that right now. Okay, Tino, is there a gamma squeeze coming in for silver options today? Tino, what do you think I need to wait for in order to buy more Circle? Listen, I'm going to... Expansion, contraction, ladies and gentlemen. Look, look. Bear with me. I shouldn't have done that to my head. Flipping out. You see this line? This line at 24,901 is a very important line, okay? From a structural perspective. Look, on the 4-month time... No, where is it? Is it the 6-month? Wait, 7 or 8 or the 9th? There we go. This is the 9-month candlestick chart. Okay, don't tell me they don't come back into vectors because they do. Look what this candlestick did. Came down to the vector, swept it up, and then came straight back up again. It's on the 9-month candle. 9-month chart. Each candlestick is 9 months. We've got 7 months until this candle closes, ladies and gentlemen. But when you look closely at this range, okay, you've effectively got the close of this candlestick in January, okay, this one right here, okay, and then you've effective in 2025. Then you've got the open of this candlestick, right? And now you've got the current price of this candlestick, okay? This area here needs to sustain. So the fact that they've rejected that high over here, okay, and now they're coming back into this zone right here is a little bit of a problem, because ultimate support could be coming in at the 24,000. If they lose 24,000, which they've tried to gun for yesterday, okay, and it's not too far away from it, okay, there is a strong possibility that we're going to see Nasdaq roll down to 22,500. That would be a fantastic dip buying opportunity, in my opinion. Okay, it's just all about how it does it. Just look at this. Look how they consolidate down and then they bring it back up, pull back a little bit, back up, and they just continuously go. You're talking about a bull market. We are in a bull market. Look at it. That is a bull market. But now we're starting to see a couple of tops being formed and no follow through. Each follow through that came into play hasn't come in just now on this candlestick. Nasdaq needs to break above 26 to sustain that. Let's do Bitcoin to put it into perspective where we are. You're getting your understanding right now. That's a problem. That is a major problem for me. Bitcoin at those lows. Not looking good. How much is the VIX at? I'll explain to that very shortly. So the VIX has been, over the last 2 months, VIX has been hedging. They've been hedging the VIX. So they have been participating in it. That only means that we could be getting ready to see some of this stuff getting recovered. Don't tell me they don't recover the VIX, because they do. Recovery. What event could that lead to? What event? That was COVID, right? What could send the VIX to 100 again? Come on, give me your thoughts. What could send the VIX to 100 again? That's the question. I mean, is it possible? I mean, listen, if we look at strategy, okay, $6.5 billion loss on Bitcoin, that is going to be exclusively for Bitcoin, okay? So don't worry about too much on that. Then you've got his story, yes, 6 billion in one day. He said that if it goes to 8K, then it's a problem. So that's exclusively to cryptocurrency, okay? We've seen this trend research company dumping 400K Ethereum. I mean, if they're dumping 400K Ethereum, that is a bit of a problem. And then, of course, we've got a few option stories over here that we're looking at. But overall, what could send the VIX up? Okay, you're talking about a nuclear bomb. Well, you would not have a problem with worrying about the VIX going up, because with a nuclear bomb, you wouldn't even be able to do anything, would you? You'd be the only dude there holding your ledger in Fallout and be like, "Does anyone want any Bitcoin? Hello?" And you see this cat going by and it just hisses at you, and that's it. What are you going to do with your Bitcoin in that time? Nothing, right? If Epstein was the Bitcoin founder, nah. Carry trade? No. The carry trade was here. Where was it? Carry trade was... That was carry trade. That time there. August 2024. The carry trade unwind. What was it? Yeah. Carry trade unwind. 2024. August. July 31st, they announced they're going to increase the rates, and then they did it in that month there. That's when they did it. That was a carry unwind. This was COVID. This was shut down. Okay? So it does help to look at the bigger picture of things. It really does help. Now we're seeing the volatility index coming up. Problem is if we're in this consistency of hedging. All right? So if the market is not happy with the way things are, they will mark their hedging from here, because that was an active in hedging approach. They started getting busy with the hedge. Okay? And that's what you've got to be paying attention to. Trump is out of office. Market is off. What? Trump is out of office. What do you mean? Let's have a look. Where is he? Today. Yeah, President departs Palm Beach. Okay. Out of town pool, cool time. He attends the Super Bowl watch party. And that's it. Yeah. So it's a pretty quiet day for Donald Trump. He's going to be meeting the president of the Republic of Honduras. Yeah, he's working the Americas. Yeah, it was Colombia yesterday. Oh, Jefferson speaking today. Hold on. So this is and I'm doing a weekly review this week for the Platinum members. And if you haven't done so, go check out the Platinum membership, guys. We absolutely ripped it apart this week with this structure on the way that I'm doing things, because obviously I went out to a prop firm and learned how they do things from start to finish. And I'm mimicking that exact same process in with the Platinum members. Those guys are turning into absolute monsters, macro monsters. They understand it, they get it, and it all starts with this document here. Now, if we just go into it, this is what I've done here. I haven't done this, but it's the rest of it I have. We've got Jefferson today as the vice chairman that's going to be speaking. He is deemed as dovish, okay? And he's a voter. That's important. So if he comes out at 5 o'clock today and starts saying, yes, we need to cut interest rates, we are going to do that, that's going to be favorable for the market because he is a voter, right? We had Bostick talking, and he's not a voter, but he's hawkish, okay? And what we really need to pay attention to is the speakers on the board, okay, that are not in any narrative. So Daly, Barr, Collins, Goolsby, Kashkari, right? These guys, only out of those guys, only 2 are going to be voting, but they're on the bench. And if they're on the bench, it means that whatever side they take is going to be influence. So if Kashkari then goes to the hawkish side and thinks that interest rates need to be higher for longer to succeed in the dual mandated objective of keeping inflation below or at 2%, then investors are going to be like, okay, that's just another vote on the dot plot, which effectively says that he's going to be hawkish. We're probably going to have high rates for longer periods of time. Equally, on the flip of that, you've got Barr as a member of the board. So he carries more influence. So if he turns around and says, I'm hawkish, that's a major problem because he's part of the board. So he can influence the votes, okay? And this is what we break down with the Platinum membership, ladies and gentlemen, that understanding. And this is the breakdown for everything. So check that out. We've got a weekly review coming in where I'll summarize all of the week's events. And we compile it all together to basically help us understand exactly what the prop firm did, exactly how to understand the narrative of what's happened and how it's been reflected and how we can project that out into the week after. In other words, going into next week, we already know where we are with everything. Okay, cool. Tino is Mexican and Jewish. Okay, that's fine. There's no problem with that at all. I'm Greek, Cypriot. Just shaved my head and let my beard grow, you know, and that's it. Tina, what do you think I need to wait for in order to buy more circles since we're at all-time lows? Are we at the all-time lows? Yeah, we're at the all-time lows. Can we go lower? Of course we can. You're not investing in Circle because of its price. When you understand that sentence, you'll understand why I'm talking about Circle. All right? Just go and have a look at what they've been getting up to since the IPO. All right? Just go and have a look. I'm not defending anything. All right? But you've got to know when to buy and when to sell. You've got to understand what the idea of value means. Let's just put it into perspective for you all. Let's pull up Circle. Just so you can understand what I'm looking at, okay? What the hell? There we go. Right. First things first, volume. Over 1 million, that's perfect. Average daily volume. 11.731 million shares are exchanged every day on average in this stock, okay? Let's go and have a look at who's playing it. We've had an increase from fund ownership from 168 in June 2025. September went to 374, and it's jumped up to 454 December 2025. We're going to get another reading soon. Okay. Funds own 18% of the stock in circulation. Management holds 3. Banks hold 2%. Already. Banks involved? Cool. Are we worried about interest rates with this company? Not so much, okay, because they hold 2% debt. I'm not bothered about the fact that USDC is subject to in terms of interest rates. I'm interested in the impact on interest rates as a company. 2%, okay? Return on equity is 10%. That's good news for me, okay? It's the better part, not so much the better participant in the actual sector of what they do, but these guys are new. What's their service? Provides digital currencies, public blockchains for payments, commerce, and financial applications. Okay? So these guys are already tapping into every single segment of cryptocurrency and then applying it to the real world. okay? But China's just turned around and said that they are seeing as cryptocurrency as illegal. So that's not really great for cryptocurrency, okay? When I look at its earnings per share on the calendar as such, I can see that their last quarter showed 100% in earnings and 66% in sales. There's consumption. There is a demand for it. Give it time. Because if you notice, in all of the quarter results, they have been earning on the sales each time. They're effectively in an acceleration. So just take that into consideration, all right? Forget the price. If I've told you okay, then this is how you got to see this one. When Bitcoin was $10, okay, and you were buying it and buying it and buying it, what were you thinking about? You were thinking about the price of it going up, yeah? But were you thinking about the adoption? What were you thinking about? Thinking about the fact that you got into something really, really in the beginning, and it's going to go, it's going to go, it's going to go, it's going to be the best thing. So the more you focused on the end goal of what it could become, then you won't be thinking about price, because there wouldn't be a price, because it'll be just based on how many people will be taking it on. The same thing holds true for Circle. I'm not saying Circle's going to go to 80,000. I'm just saying to you that based on the service that they provide, it's getting ready to put that to work. This is based on the idea of value. What does the company do? If its share price is taking a shit, what's its business doing? Its business is fine. Now, you want to see an example of why your business ain't doing so great? If your company doesn't do anything, Microstrategy. They were a software analytics company with zero earnings per share. Pointless. Now their earnings per share came in at 1,242%. The earnings per share is the advert to Wall Street. Don't care about your sales. We care about your earnings. How much money can you earn and how much do I get to get on the back of that? If you ain't giving me shit, then what's the point? I'm going to get rid of that stock. Forget what it's doing now. I hope that makes sense. Anyways, quickly going into other aspects, let's have a look at where we are with the Nasdaq. Nasdaq making a nice little climb up, little rejection right there. Okay, so that's looking nice. And then, of course, let's see if it sustains itself, okay? Going into the volatility index is pulling back down again, coming into this vector zone right there. Going over into the dollar dominance, just to look at where we are over there. You can see dollars pulling back, which is consistent. We've got the euro climbing up nicely. It's just a little bit of recovery, but we've also got dollar yen still holding out on its gains. Just be very mindful at the start of the week or the start of the last session, guys, because it could get a little bit tricky later on. Just going into the stocks of the market. Tesla is, well, it's gapped up a little bit at the open. Nvidia, yeah, it's doing okay. Microsoft is coming away from its lows. Amazon's not doing too great on their investment. They're probably going to close this gap if they continue. Google is just consolidating sideways. Meta is just working its business down there. Apple still doing great, man. Apple's killing it, man. Apple's the only one that's outperforming the Mag 7. Intel just going sideways. And then, of course, Netflix with the potential story between Warner Bros. They're discussing it with the shareholders right now on what the next plan is. It's going to be interesting because Netflix is agreeing to paying a fine just to get into this business with Warner Brothers. And that's kind of got investors a little bit shook, which was effectively this drop to the downside. Okay. Do you think ABTC is still accumulation, distribution, accumulation and expansion, contraction. That's all it is. Let's just have a look at USAR a second. How's USA Rare Earth done? I mean, it's done all right, man. I said, some people were saying, you told us to buy this one and look at it. It's at $11 and then it went to 32. Look at it. Never mind. Anyways, these guys are doing big things. You've got a nice cup with handle as such, but the handle itself is actually trading below this region here, which is a bit of a problem. But yeah, earnings per share is due in 19 days. Okay, so just keep an eye on that. Tino, when are the times you would say this vector candle is to push price away versus this candle for in and out? What's the proof of the move versus the move? The proof of the move is effectively the momentum, okay? Is the momentum sustaining itself? Do you have volume back in it? Are you watching price to a degree where you can say, yeah, I'm comfortable with the way it's moving? Okay, look at this green vector candle right here on Bitcoin. It's made a nice little pump to the upside. Now I need to see exactly the same thing coming into play to be in agreement that we are looking to see further movement to the upside. You've got to be aligned with the way the candlestick is moving, but also have a look at order flow. All right, got to be careful because this could be a trap. You got to factor in so many things. All right, but given that we've just had a big sell-off across the board, okay, there's going to be bound to be a bit of a recovery, but keep an eye out on the news just in case something comes out. Always pay yourselves, take something off the table. Because just because you see Bitcoin move up from 66,750 to 67,750, $1,000 move does not start your bull market. And I bet you this is where it starts from. Knowing me. Tito, what specific part of financial plumbing is the least planning is the least resilient when liquidity is withdrawn all at once? I think the VIX 100 is born. I think this is where the VIX 100 is born. What do you mean by plumbing? When part of the financial plumbing, I don't understand that. Tino, what? Yeah, I've answered that question. Stop by the Discord. Bitcoin moved from 59 to 68 in a couple of hours. Yeah, that's... Yeah, that was a volatile time, most definitely. Most definitely. USDT, have a look at that. USDT coming in. They're putting the dollars to work. Look, their value. Again, perception of value. The more someone's... This is a psychological chart. Okay? It's a psychological chart. Someone's now thinking, oh, yeah, man, Bitcoin. I've got a really strong dollar now. Let me put it to work. Yeah? Should we look at the S&P order book to trade an NQ? The opposite. Trade you look at the Nasdaq to trade S&P. You can use the S&P to trade Nasdaq, but Nasdaq's movement in ticks is so much faster than the S&P's. One tick in the S&P could be 4 or 5 for the Nasdaq. All right? But you get information about the commitment of people coming in on Nasdaq, where you can see the orders coming in and it's pushing. S&P's bound to jump about 5, 6 ticks on the back of that. Okay. Yeah. McSlacker. All right. Listen, mad love and respect, guys. Please trade safely. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend and go and watch the extraction contraction video last night if you want a bit of a giggle.